And Deena, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Mr. Haldea, do you expect a lot of appetite for the IPO, the first really major exchange that's being going to make its debut?
Good morning. As you know, I don't comment on specific companies or specific IPOs, but on a macro level, 2016 was a great year for IPOs. Although the numbers were still, we're still talking of just about 27 IPOs and about 27,000 crores. It still represented a great, turnaround from the earlier 3-4 years when the markets were almost dead. So 2017 looks to be even more promising with a lot of new entrants as far as spaces are concerned. So they're going to be looking at exchanges, they're going to look at depositories.
Mr. Haldea, that was my reason for asking you about the interest in the IPO is more because of what has been revealed, and which you would have noticed that there were, allegations of preferential access given to some brokers, and that's what the audit by an independent agency appears to have revealed, that we got to read in the DRHP. Given that, do you think this IPO is going to get the kind of reception one thought it will get?
You see, until and unless there is some kind of action from the regulatory body, which then puts any market player or entity or an exchange into a spot where its long-term sustenance comes under doubt. Every company would have a lot of negatives. When you read through the prospectus and risk factors, there are almost cases in every single IPO.
Of course, so we have Deena Mehta, who also joins into our conversation. So let's get her into the discussion as well. Deena, hi, good morning. NSE's listing has been hit with many hurdles, whether it was accusation of corporate governance breaching or even Chitra's resignation, and now this forensic audit that was done. Do you think that could in any way, cast a shadow over the IPO?
I would say that people are very positive about the stock market business as such, which would, really lend a lot of interest so far as this IPO is concerned. Because, the demonetization impact that we talk about, lot of cash has come into the system, which could be deployed in financial assets. Then we are also talking of, growth and other things happening after this initial dip which is there. So net-net, people are very positive about the stock markets, picking up substantially. And now bonds and other things also have started, trading very heavily on the exchanges. So everything put together, I think the story for stock markets is very positive. And that could, the future is what always stock investors look at. That could be a major positive factor so far as the markets are concerned. And, dominance which is there for NSE, it is not going to disappear overnight. And markets, tend to evolve around the top performing exchange which is there. And as of now, NSE is the top performing exchange. So I do not think that these controversies and other things would really majorly bring down the volumes of NSE. And so long as the volumes are there, I think there is going to be a lot of interest of people in this IPO listing.
Well, actually, Mr. Haldea was also making a similar point, I think, that, every company has some problems, and therefore that should not color the IPO or should not destabilize the IPO. Mr. Haldea, therefore, you think that exchanges in India, especially a big exchange like NSE, still has a lot of growth prospects?
Yeah, you see, the financial markets that Deena just mentioned, the financial markets and capital markets in particular are still, very small population is currently invested. We keep talking of enlarging the retail base. We keep talking of domestic institutional base to grow. We still keep talking about a lot of foreign money which should actually find place in India. So I think there is huge, potential for the markets to grow, for financial savings to get converted into market savings. And therefore, given that fact, and with, for example, more digitization, more transparency, more, measures by the government which will bring in, greater confidence in the marketplace. I think the space for financial market companies and capital market companies is quite assured, in the sense that we are still, talking of just about 2 to 3 crore investors in the marketplace. The mutual fund industry itself has shown a huge amount of growth, and that money ultimately gets invested into the markets. So that's another positive signal. Insurance companies, as you know, we'll start seeing some 1 or 2 companies at least getting listed in 2017, and they also represent the small money. And I think, therefore, with all these sectors, and the intermediary sectors set to grow further, the financial markets and capital markets scenario looks to be very promising.
Okay. Deena, any thoughts on how the valuations of the NSE IPO is stacked up versus some other global listed exchanges? I mean, currently it's valued at a 40,000 crore market cap, which would signify almost a 30 times projected earnings for next year, for FY18. Any thoughts on whether there is enough left on the table for investors?
I mean, talking as an investor, I would say that this issue appears to be fully priced. And I do not know how much upside would be left for the investors to really make money, unless the market does very well and we see a huge upswing, which if it comes about, then the valuation should do well. But I would say it is fully priced at this level, and even the other exchange also is priced at almost 50 PE, I think. So it is in a high kind of pricing. But then if we are looking at discounting the future, I think the future, if it looks bright, then, the pricing is going to be higher. But in the current balance sheet, it looks like it is fully priced.
Okay. Well, actually, what gave us this doubt is that just a few months back, SBI sold off. At that time, the per share value came at about 4,500 rupees. And now it looks like, if you look at the 40,000 crore market cap, the per share value or per share price comes to 8,800 rupees. So that's quite a jump in a few months. It does look, therefore, as probably richly valued. But Mr. Haldea, I'm really going back to that problem of potential preferential access to some brokers. It's not a deal breaker. To be fair, on the side of the NSE, you will have to say that it was the NSE's board itself which has brought this to the fore. It's an extremely high-profile board, and you can't fault it at all. Ashok Chawla, Ravi Narayan, Dinesh Kanabar, Anshula Kant, the Deputy Managing Director of SBI, Mohandas Pai, Dharmishta Rawal. It doesn't get better than this. Sunita Sharma of LIC Housing. It's a very elegant and elite board. But still, potential preferential access to brokers sounds very big in terms of a crime that an exchange can commit. You don't think this is a deal breaker?
Well, again, you're asking a very deal-specific question, and as I mentioned, generally I don't make deal-specific comments. But as I said initially, every company would have some negatives, and unless you call it a word, you use the word crime, unless the offense is of a kind which can derail the activity, the business activity, this could. There's no indictment of the board or the management. I think we still need to unravel some part of this entire episode. And the fact that you mentioned that there's an eminent board, both at NSE and BSE, for example, and there were large number of public interest directors.
Yes.
And they have a huge reputation to maintain. If things were really bad, I don't think you would have attracted such talent onto the boards. So I'm not overtly concerned about the disclosures that have been made. But we'll have to wait and look forward as to what action, if any, emanates out of this, and what impact would it have on the exchange's functioning.
Fair point, sir. Mr. Haldea, I mean, the whole reason for my asking you is you have yourself been a public interest director, and if that's your word, then that's a very important salve on those who may be worried about this problem.
Oh yes, definitely. Those are some things that you have to keep at the back of your mind. But before we end the discussion, Deena, just one final word from your end. You mentioned that, although the IPO appears to be fully priced, there's still a lot of growth that we could see for the exchange sector as a whole. And there's there's always a premium attached to some of these niche or some of these growth sectors. What kind of growth do you see, say, over the next 1 to 2 years?
I think, unfortunately in India, there is no copyright so far as the exchange products are concerned. If you apply to SEBI for a particular product, the other exchange is also free to use that product and market it to these brokers. So there is nothing like copyright or having a edge so far as products are concerned. But what I see in the horizon, few areas of growth which are going to happen. One is these international exchanges that we are talking about. The amount of business which is going abroad through setting up of these economic zones and Gift City and a similar thing in Bombay also. We financial centers, we would expect growth to come in that area. Other is mobilization of household savings, which is again a big area, because we are staring at lower and lower interest rates. And if government savings and bank savings are going to the rate of interest is going to go down, there is no option but coming to capital market. So that is the second growth area which is there. And third is the debt market. I think it's time that government also has a major presence in the retail debt market, because in past as high as 6% of the GSECs were held by retail. But due to setting up of depositories and absence of interoperability between the PDO and the CDSL and NSDL, there is virtually no activity happening so far as retail debt is concerned. So I think these are major areas where business growth can happen. And of course, if industry does well, you can have more IPOs also coming through. So all in all, I feel that the interest, the growth potential is there in several areas, and I'm sure the exchanges, be it NSE, BSE, they should be able to mobilize the investors and engage them into these various products, and which should show us a good growth so far as the exchange business is concerned.
Okay, ma'am, that's an extremely comprehensive reply. Thank you very much, Deena Mehta and Prithvi Haldea, for joining.